You're listening to Supreme Court Allows Deep Cuts at Education Department for Now, a news story written by Justin Juvenile and Laura Meckler and read by an AI-generated voice. A divided Supreme Court on Monday cleared the way for the Trump administration to sharply shrink the Education Department, one of the cornerstones of the president's efforts to radically downsize the federal government. The justices lifted a temporary lower court ruling that prevented Trump officials from slashing more than a third of the department's more than 4,100 workers and shifting some of its functions to the states and other departments as litigation over the cuts plays out in the lower courts. As is common with cases decided on the emergency docket, the majority did not explain its rationale for the decision. Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote a scathing dissent that was joined by the court's two other liberals. When the executive publicly announces its intent to break the law and then executes on that promise, it is the judiciary's duty to check that lawlessness, not expedite it, Sotomayor wrote. Two lower courts rose to the occasion, preliminarily enjoining the mass firings while the litigation remains ongoing. Rather than maintain the status quo, however, this court now intervenes. That decision is indefensible. Trump has said he wants to close the department because it would allow children and their families the opportunity to escape a system that is failing them. But administration officials acknowledge that would require legislation because Congress created the department. He has also argued trimming the department would make it more efficient and increase accountability. Education Secretary Linda McMahon initiated the largest job cut in the department's history in March, soon after she was sworn in. Officials said more than 1,300 workers would be laid off, and about 600 others had accepted offers to leave. Soon after, Trump issued an executive order directing McMahon to take all necessary steps to facilitate the closure of the Department of Education. He has also said he intends to move the federal student loan and special needs programs out of the department. The department has plans to eliminate office space in San Francisco, New York, Boston, Chicago, Dallas, and Cleveland, as well as consolidate staff from 3 buildings to 1 in D.C. Trump officials have said the cuts would affect every aspect of the department's operation, but it will continue its statutorily required functions. McMahon requested an appropriation of more than $66 billion for next year's budget in June. McMahon hailed the High Court's ruling in a statement Monday, calling it a significant win for students and families. Today, the Supreme Court again confirmed the obvious. The President of the United States, as the head of the executive branch, has the ultimate authority to make decisions about staffing levels, administrative organization, and day-to-day operations of federal agencies. More than 20 states, teachers' unions, and school districts filed challenges to the cuts, and the lawsuits were later consolidated. They said in a filing with the Supreme Court that the cuts would effectively strip the department down to the plywood, with deleterious effects on schools, districts, and children across the country. They contend the department can no longer carry out the functions Congress has mandated. Sharia Smith, president of the American Federation of Government Employees Local 252, urged the administration to reconsider the cuts. Smith was one of the Education Department employees targeted as part of the downsizing. This effort from the Trump administration to dismantle the Department of Education is playing with the futures of millions of Americans, and after just 4 months, the consequences are already evident across our education system, Smith said. A federal judge in Massachusetts agreed with that assessment in May, issuing a preliminary injunction that required the Trump administration to rehire all staff that were cut and reset all changes made at the department to what existed before Trump took office. U.S. District Judge Myung-Jae Jun, a Biden appointee, wrote testimonials by department employees and others paint a stark picture of the irreparable harm the cuts would cause if not reversed, particularly on vulnerable students. Prior to the reduction in force, the department was already struggling to meet its goals, so it is only reasonable to expect that an RIF of this magnitude will likely cripple the department, Jun wrote. The U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for the First Circuit affirmed that decision earlier this month, before Trump officials filed an emergency appeal with the Supreme Court seeking to put a hold on the ruling. Solicitor General D. John Sauer argued that the courts had overreached. The Constitution vests the executive branch, not district courts, with the authority to make judgments about how many employees are needed to carry out an agency's statutory functions and whom they should be, Sauer wrote. The Education Department was created in 1979 under President Jimmy Carter. It is responsible for administering the $1.6 trillion federal student loan program. grants to elementary and secondary schools, achievement tests and civil rights laws in schools. The case is the second emergency appeal to go before the Supreme Court dealing with education issues. In April, a divided court allowed the Trump administration to freeze up to $65 million in grants to alleviate teacher shortages, which the administration said promoted diversity, equity, and inclusion. Separately, the High Court also allowed the administration to go forward with mass layoffs of thousands of employees. This is a developing story. It will be update.